take me so high up. Yes, you get me so inspired. Oh, you take me so high up. Yeah, you get me so inspired. Oh, 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 I know it's true. Oh, 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 I know it's true, yeah. 'Cause I found a heaven in you. Yeah, I found a heaven in you.
It is Bridget Masinga coming through with Heaven in You, featuring Jay Something on this particular track. I love this collaboration. I think this song doesn't get enough, airplay and enough attention. It's such a beautiful, beautiful song. And I always say this all the time, that the one thing that I can always appreciate about the late, great Ndata Hugh is his ability to reach out to younger musicians and collaborate with younger musicians from various genres, and I think for him it was an intentional thing that he decided that he would do, particularly in the later years of his life. And beautiful work have come out of those collaborations, including this particular song featuring Jay Something. Heaven in You is the name of the track. It's just gone 10 past 1 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. Leading the conversations that move you, and there is so much on the agenda today, as you heard some of the day's running headlines being unpacked with Sakina and Kathy prior to that. And we continue, albeit on a slightly different angling, but we continue to plug in to what is driving the national discourse today. And we're going to be having a conversation around, the events that we've been seeing occurring, particularly out of OR Tambo International Airport, which has really become a focal point in the escalating global drug trade. We've just seen in recent weeks alone 14 arrests of drug mules that were intercepted at OR Tambo, the latest one being this past Sunday. And so we're going to be talking around drug trafficking trends in the country. As well as, what is it? What is it that makes South Africa such an easy gateway, that provides such easy access to the drug trafficking network on the continent and beyond? So we're going to be having that conversation with the Institute for Security Studies. Also coming up, we've got a bit of a book club today. We're going to be catching up with the author of The Family Matriarch. That conversation is coming up in the first hour of the show. On the other side of 2, because it is a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays we tend to take a health and wellness focus, particularly after 2 o'clock. And we're going to be looking at the impacts of excessive sugar intake, the impact on your emotional well-being, and of course your general health as well. And we're going to be in conversation with a registered dietitian on that conversation. There's a lot to come health-wise and wellness-wise after 2, and so I'll tell you what that all looks like closer to that time. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061 410 410 is our WhatsApp line. We'd love to know your take on the drug trafficking situation in South Africa right now. Do you think it's a situation of us just having porous border controls that have in part led to this? We know the socio-economic conditions in the country that have left a lot of drug mules probably thinking that this is a viable way for them to provide for themselves and their families, so we understand the dynamics around that. But what kind of measures, what kind of stricter security measures perhaps should be considered moving forward if we are to curb the enthusiasm of using us as a drug trafficking network gateway? 061 410 4107 is the number that you can call us on.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
The University of Johannesburg ladies plan to conquer the morning and secure a crucial 3 points for breakfast. But Richmond United believe it is about time for them to rub shoulders with teams in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. UJ Ladies FC versus Richmond United Ladies FC on Saturday, 12 October at 9 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. In our first conversation, we are focusing on the drug trafficking trends in South Africa. Would love to hear your thoughts and your perspective on this. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. So we've seen in recent weeks, obviously, that OR Tambo International here in Johannesburg has really become the center stage in the escalating global drug trade. There's been so far about 14 arrests of drug mules that have really, I think, just brought this conversation back to the spotlight. It's alarming, though, the frequency of the incidents, right? It's alarming just knowing that we obviously are an easy gateway and easy access for those indulging in the drug trade. And so this is why we thought we'd have this conversation with somebody who knows far better than us, Willem Els, who is of the Institute of Security Studies. How are you doing, Willem?
Doing very well, and you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for making the time. We appreciate it. 14 arrests in just the last few weeks alone, with the most recent one being this past Sunday. I heard in recent news updates that gentleman is currently in hospital with medical complications because of the bullets, the cocaine-fueled bullets that he swallowed. But we should be concerned, I think, as South Africans. Yes? No?
Of course we should. This is the Sao Paulo route or flight that is a direct flight from the area where the majority of your cocaine in the world is being produced. Before that, it was a Rio flight that was also being used because South African Airways used to fly directly from Rio to Cape Town and then to Johannesburg. And we see that is the easiest route that they can use and also being exploited then by these syndicates. But we must also understand, we've got a rule of thumb that we work on, and that is that for every mule that has been arrested, 20 were not arrested. So that is just alarming to see the sharp increase. And also we know that those that got away, there must be more of them. But also kudos to the police, because we understand that this is based on, the successes are based on better cooperation, also projects that are between the South African Police Service and of course the police in Brazil, that led to information sharing, cooperation that is also now yielding these results.
Yeah. Let's talk about perhaps also just why is it that South Africa seems to be, and I know you mentioned the flight paths, for instance. Why is it that South Africa seems, one, attractive for drug trafficking, but also what makes us, I guess, easy access for this kind of cartels and routes to cement and find traction here?
Yeah, in the first place, we must understand that South Africa is known as the southern route, and that is for your heroin trafficking, for your meth drugs that are coming through, but also for the cocaine, because from Pakistan, Afghanistan, where the majority of your heroin is being produced, the route is to Europe and then to the USA. And it became so difficult for them. They started to close all the gates there, and then they took the easy route, the next easy route, because they are like water or electricity. They follow the easy way out. They started to follow what we would call the Swahili coast route. That is a trading route that's from Saudi Arabia. That's been here for thousands of years. And that is why the ISS also some years ago, 3-4 years ago, we published a paper called The Heroin Coast, of how the heroin is being smuggled from Pakistan all the way along the east coast, and it enters Africa through Tanzania and in northern Mozambique. Then it ends up in South Africa. That is the hub for redistribution up to the UK or to Europe and also to America. That is for your heroin. But also, some of it remain behind, and then it becomes our problem because of local demand and consumption. Similarly so with your cocaine. Your cocaine that is going to the Far East, to Australia, and so on, it comes in through Brazil, and either by sea or it comes in by air. Comes to South Africa, we see that ships that are passing South Africa, they dump some of these bags of cocaine overboard. Fishing trawlers go and pick it up, and there's been several arrests in recent months just based on that. So that is why we are the southern route, the route of least resistance. And you asked about why. You mentioned our borders, our lack of law enforcement, our lack of intelligence, just the challenges that we face. We've got tremendous long sea borders. Our borders are tremendously poor as our land borders as well as our airports because of one thing, and that is corruption. Your officials that are easily corrupted, and that contribute to the porosity of our borders.
Now, what I'm also picking up, Willem, is, and I was going to ask you that, are we the final destination? But from what I'm hearing from the explanation of the southern route, we really are not the ultimate final destination. We just a trading port along the way.
We are. And another thing that I didn't mention, in recent months, there was a discovery of several drug labs here in South Africa as well. So apart from the drugs that are imported to South Africa, and then, of course, you got your local consumption, but we had a transit route to these other countries. We also became a major hub for the manufacturing, especially of your synthetic drugs.
Very interesting. 061-410-4107. We'd love to hear your perspective on this conversation. 086-000-2032. We've seen the increase in drug trafficking busts hitting our headlines, and I wonder, from where you're sitting, from your vantage point, what do you think is aiding to the problem? Is it our porous borders, our lack of security, our easily corruptible officials that make us just ideally placed for those that are in the drug trade to use us as a route and a hub to conduct business, or to ultimately get their products to where they need to get them with the least resistance? So you can send us a voice note on 061-410-4107, or you can give us a call on 086-000-2032. The other thing that I also wanted to find out, are we, and as you mentioned, we saw that big sort of drug lab, I think the biggest one on the continent, that was in the news headlines just last month with the Mexican citizens. I stand to be corrected on the scale of it, but I remember it was quite substantial. Are we scratching the surface by way of being potentially a new territory for international cartels to come through and manufacture their product? Given everything that you've said about, our borders, our security controls, our desperation even in community and society, oftentimes we're quite willing to overlook certain things and criminality, because if we benefit from it as individuals, then we turn a blind eye. But is all of those elements placing us in a very precarious situation? Willem? I think we lost Willem there for a second. Let's take a quick break as we try and get him back on the line, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and also take your calls.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Myths versus facts. I'm too young to get breast cancer. Many women under age 40 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Men can't get breast cancer. 1 in 922 men have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. I have never had children and can therefore not get breast cancer. Women who haven't had children or only had them after 30 have an increased risk of breast cancer. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on SAFM.
Is guiding us as a country.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're just working on re-establishing our connection to Willem Els, who's with the Institute for Security Studies. In the meantime, let's cut to Chris out in Pretoria. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and how are you?
I'm good, Abud Chris. Go ahead.
I wanted to say, to make an input, as a country, we've got the National Crime Prevention Strategy. This document was developed years back, since the inception of our democracy, and it guides law enforcement. And very important, the document talks about authorities having to identify the cause of the problem. Right? Among other causes, we have got a problem with regard to capacity to gather intelligence, because it is only through intelligence gathering that we will be able to identify the mastermind behind all of these things, their routes, the manufacturing areas where these things are being manufactured, and the last destinations. But because we seemingly do not have intelligence capability in this country, right, we've got a serious problem. One day, I don't know what to say, but it is so frustrating, right? If we were to follow what the National Crime Prevention Strategy and build capacity in our police service, build capacity throughout the country, make sure that we've got men and women who are in the streets, well-trained, capable of identifying, recruiting, infiltrating, so that we deal with this problem once and for all. Let these international organizations, right, realize that it is risky to go into South Africa and continue with this heinous crime. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your input, Abud Chris. And of course, you make some very solid observations there. It probably does speak to, in part, a lack of intelligence gathering, right? That partly leads us here. And I guess maybe also some might argue that, as Willem did allude, that perhaps we're also seeing the arrest that we're seeing now because of us trying to bolster that intelligence gathering, and because of us trying to bolster our efforts with cross-national collaboration. And maybe this is why we're starting to see just a few small nyana results, albeit not catching the big fish, but just catching the guppies and hoping that the guppies then lead us to the bigger fish somewhere down in the line, or somewhere down the line rather. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. We're still struggling to get a hold of Willem. He is in Namibia currently, so he was having the conversation with us from Namibia. We'll keep trying, but in the meantime, our lines are open because it is a very important conversation, and he is well placed, being with the Institute for Security Studies to help us really get an understanding of the broader conversation around drug trafficking in the country. Let us go. I'm just looking at the time. Let's go to the headline news, and then we'll come back and we'll get into your WhatsApp.
A very good afternoon. Thank you, Bridge. With the news headlines this hour, ke Modupi Makgalemele. The trial of the 10 accused in the University of Fort Hare murder case has been set for the 5th of May next year. Mineral Resources Minister Bridget Masinga has invited investors to put their money into South Africa and the continent's rich resources. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has described the Russian President Vladimir Putin as his closest comrade. A full news update coming up 2 o'clock.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's go to WhatsApp and hear some of your thoughts around this conversation.
Hello, Bridget and your guest. This is Sepiso. This is just not surprising. The lack of security, like you correctly mentioned, and also South Africa is an easy target. Look at how also human trafficking is so rife in South Africa. I remember at one point I was traveling from Johannesburg to Cape Town, and when we landed in Cape Town, this girl was traveling with these other two guys, a young girl. And when we were about to go and get our luggage, she literally threw herself on the floor and screamed. And not even the police or anyone came to find out what was going on. And those guys just picked up that girl and left, took the luggage and left. And she was carrying a plastic bag, and these guys got a luggage. So you may wonder what was in that luggage, So lack of security in South Africa, that's the issue, and easily corruptible aviation staff.
Afternoon, Bridget. The reason why people are coming in OR Tambo is corruption at the borders, corruption at airports, and South Africa's jails, our hotels and universities. No accountability, no death penalty like other countries. So it's easy to sell drugs here freely because even police are bribed. Thank you, Bridget.
Afternoon, SFM. Afternoon, listeners. Well, OR Tambo, I know I'm a former employee here. I know it's corrupt. Most of these people are doing this. These are the officials. These top officials who are doing these things. If you look at from the baggage, you look at from the air side, corruption is taking place. It's not about the security. It's not. The security is there. The immigration officers are corrupt as well. And you look at what is happening. No, it's corrupt. Over time, it's corrupt anyway. Police are corrupt. You understand? So it's worse, man. It's worse. It's worse because, not to say some other officials are not working, but mainly, majority of these officials are corrupt. From immigrations, from subs, you go from baggages, and it's corruption. And you look at the security has been compromised. These security officers, it's been compromised because the training is not that up to standard. Particularly these private securities, is not up to the standard. We understand that. You look at the security itself, it's compromising a lot. And most of these people, they are corrupt. Not only the officials, but also the staff, they are corrupt. So that's a thing. If you see all these police also corrupt, officials, immigration officers are corrupt. So it's a problem in OR Tambo. Thank you.
I definitely hear the passion in it. And, I don't even think that we need to be convinced around the corruption at some of these border controls and border access. And I know that we're not brandishing every official that works for OR Tambo with the same brush or that works for any of our points of entry with the same brush. But we definitely have a problem. We definitely have a huge escalating problem. Even on this end, we don't know. We are in communication with William via text message, but for some reason now our line is just challenging for us to get through, and we've tried both the standard line as well as WhatsApp, and we can't isolate as to why is it we cannot place a physical call to him anymore in Namibia, but we will keep trying. But in the meantime, absolutely would love to hear more of your thoughts on this conversation. We did speak earlier in the year, right, about the proportion of South Africans that are using drugs like cocaine and heroin, and how that has surged since the early 2000s. In fact, it's risen from just under 2% in 2002 to well over 10% by 2017. And this was according to a research that was published in the International Journal of Drug Policy. Consumption speaks to a whole sort of separate laundry, or separate basket rather, of issues that need to be tackled by way of curbing the consumption to substances. But centered to that as well is just how easily accessible they are, and how easily accessible it is to get them into the country. And Willem was not the first person to bring up this southern route, right? There's actually a brilliant documentary. I don't know if it's still on. I recall watching it last year sometime. A brilliant documentary on Netflix that tracks the drug business and the drug trade. South Africa featured very prominently in that particular docuseries, in part because of the route, and also just looking at the economics of the drug trade, and how, even though it is longer and it is a process by way of time and length, our route and our pattern can be a bit cumbersome. However, from a financial standpoint, for those in the drug trade, they would rather use the southern route because it costs them less to go through us in order to get their product all over the world. You know, whether they're getting it into other parts of the continent, whether they're getting it into Europe, whether they're getting it into the Americas, we are just the cost-effective route for a lot of people in the drug trade. It's actually quite an informative. In one part, it has you thinking about the business of narcotics, and you go, geez, it's quite the lucrative business, isn't it? But it also just opens your eyes to so many things. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go back to WhatsApp.
Hi, Bridget. We have become a crime hub in South Africa because the politicians are actually benefiting out of this illicit trade. If you remember some years ago, Bridget, there was a lady called Cheryl Tweley who was the wife to a minister, if I'm not wrong, I think Minister of Intelligence. Not too long ago, there was a story about Thandi Modise's farm where the foreign workers actually left the pigs to die. And then there's a story about the president, which you never entertain as news, as journalist, about the foreigners that worked in his farm that stole from him. So you can actually see that the borders are deliberately left porous so that the politicians can benefit out of this.
Good afternoon, Bridget. Andre is my name. I also want to just comment on this corruption. The corruption, was from the top, right on the top. That's why everything is happening here in our country, right? Corruption, it's from the top. The main culprits are there on the top. They are the ones that's causing all these things, because nothing is happening in our country that's right. They can just do as they please. These people, they come and they go as they please, and nothing is happening to them. So it only shows you. I mean, if you go to any other country, before you even go there, they know already what are you coming to do. They know what are you coming to. If you're coming to work, or what is your plans. And then when you get there, you get stopped at the airport. They go through your bags, they search your bags. But in South Africa, no, you come and you go and you do what you want. And then nothing is happening. Because why? Our government, our leaders is the main culprit of this thing. Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a pity about Willem. And, maybe what we should pen is that when he's back in the country that we should pick up this conversation again, because we didn't even touch on perhaps the regional and international cooperation that is required, and talking about how are we cooperating with other countries that face similar problems, places like Brazil, places like the Asias, East Asia, for Thailand and other territories where we do have direct transport routes, and we obviously cannot also put to stop our ability to fly direct into these places. Some of us like to travel and we like direct routes, but what other kinds of partnerships can be in place so that we safeguard both nations on either side of where these ships and these freight planes land, or these passenger planes land frequently. Anyway, let's pause the conversation there. We'll put a pin on it for today. We'll revisit it on another day. We'll find out from Willem when his schedule allows once again, and perhaps he'll be back in the country then, and we can continue the conversation, because this is obviously an ongoing theme in the country. It's going absolutely nowhere. The good thing is, and I guess the encouraging thing is, that we have seen the number of arrests that we have seen in such a short period of time. It does speak to the fact that whatever efforts are being put in place, whether at points of entry like OR Tambo, whether it's at points of departure, whether it's the sharing of intelligence, it is yielding some kind of results, right? We're catching the small fries, but ultimately at some point, hopefully, the small fries will lead us to the bigger fish. And if it's just a couple of bullets off the streets, it's still a couple of bullets that make by bullets, I mean cocaine bullets, that make a huge difference. Let's put a pause here. It's just gone 22 on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga.
Is alcohol affecting your work? Is alcohol affecting your family? Is alcohol affecting your relationships? Visit aasouthafrica.org.za or call 086 143 5722. With Alcoholics Anonymous, you need never stand alone again. This is a SABC supported initiative.
The Blue Sharks want to dive deep and secure 3 points to keep the second position in Group C. While the Zebras of Southern Africa are searching for their first win, they want to escape from the basement. Who will enjoy the final whistle dance of celebration? This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco. Cape Verde versus Botswana on Thursday, 10 October at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stages, pages, screens, and more on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
We are catching up now for Stages, Pages, Screens and More with the author of The Family Matriarch. Rudzani Kashane joins us now. And Rudzani has launched a brand new novel just this past weekend. And we thought it's been a while since we've had, book club on The Full Circle. We thought we'd have a quick book club with you. How are you doing, madam?
I'm good. And you, Bridget?
I'm great. Thank you very much. So it's very rare, and I'm going to put this disclaimer out. It's very rare that I have a book conversation on a book that I've not read. In fact, it never happens. Yes. But that's not on you. That's that's on my producers. So I'm having a conversation out of context because I've not laid eyes on the book. And so I've got to be like those people that I really detest when they ask the questions of, tell me about the book.
Okay, The Family Matriarch is really an interesting book. It takes a look at the intertwined lives of two separate women living two separate lives. Mm-hmm. One is Paige Mahone, a relentless journalist, and the other one is Enelo Matebula, a woman married to a businessman and a politician that seems to have it all together. But when tragedy strikes, when somehow at the Matebula household, Enelo ends up stabbing her husband 24 times, resulting in his death, the two women's path cross. So it's quite an interesting novel.
Very interesting. Okay, so the two protagonists are the females in this particular book.
Yes.
Enelo and Paige.
Yes.
Now, give me inspiration by way of, where did the inspiration come from for this one?
Okay, I used to... Actually, I still write on Facebook. We as writers, authors that can't afford to publish our books yet, we do create Facebook pages and then we write on Facebook. So there was this story that I was writing, Liana Israel Pride. Their mother was hardcore, but not like Enelo. So I was like, no, people loved her. My readers loved her. So I was like, no, let me stretch it and see how far I can take this character inspired by Madlamini. She was called Madlamini. So, it really took it. So I stretched it from there. That was, Madlamini was my inspiration for Enelo, the character of Enelo.
All right.
Yeah.
And by way of process, I mean, how long did it take you to sort of develop the characters before you actually started penning their story down as a novel?
Now, it usually takes me about a week to come to brainstorm and then see to come up with names. The first thing I do is come up with names.
Mm-hmm.
And then once then I think of the story in my head, or what direction I usually don't know how my stories will end. I know how they start, but I don't know how they end. So that's quite interesting. So the direction that the way that I write, whatever directions the character leads me to, I just follow up on that direction. Or no, this is how we are going. If Paige is going through something, it means okay.
Yes.
We are following here. We'll start here. We'll end here with whatever she's going, because you don't want to drag it out for too long. So,
yes.
Yeah.
What's interesting for me is you just said you know how the characters will start, but you don't know how they'll end. And so then I wonder, are you then immersed? I've had this conversation with Dudu Busani, and
yes.
And I wonder, Guti, are you then immersed as an author into the life of your character so much that you are responsive situation upon situation as though it was real time when you write it?
Yeah, I believe that as an author, once I'm writing Paige or Enelo's perspective, I become Paige for a moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I become Paige. Then once I'm done writing her, I take off the head that is Paige's head, and then I move to Enelo, wear her head, and then it's in the way that we separate. You've got to learn, as an author, you've got to learn how to separate the authors. Because as an author, I believe I'm also a character somehow, because I wear the Paige's head, I wear their heads and become them for that moment.
Yes.
So that I can truly develop the character and bring out the best of the character that I can.
Do you filter anyone else in that process? Like, do you organically, if you were Paige and you were going through a situation, you'd murdered your husband, there'd be an inner circle that you are now sharing this with? Or do you as an author, are there people that you bring close to your process that help you sort of filter the journeys of your characters, or you work in isolation?
No, I work closely with my editor, Mamelo Matake. Fortunately, I have a very good relationship with her. She's great. So what we'll do is I'll give her the full script, and then once I've done the full script, she goes through it, and then give me feedback. Then every Sunday we used to brainstorm. This is how you can bring out Paige. I see that the Aru character should be saying, I see how the Aru character is not growing. This is how you can grow him. Then I, as an author, go back and she gives me suggestions, or no, Aru can go through this now. Now it's up to me as an author to go and portray it, and then she edits it. That's how I work.
I got you. So for those listening to us, Ruzani, where is the book now stocked? How do we get a hold of the book?
The book, you can get it directly from me on 078 579 7866. You can get it
slower. 078
579
579
7866.
7866.
Or you can go to Amazon.
Okay.
And then Book Circle Capital also has got the copies.
Okay, and Book
Yes.
Circle Capital. I feel like you should have started with Amazon and Book Circle Capital first before giving out your numbers. So let's go to Amazon and Book Circle Capital. They've got the book. It's called The Family Matriarch. I'll do my litmus test. So my litmus test when I get a new book, I put it in my hand. And this is a trick I got from Kojo Buffo, editor and writer. And I put it in my hand and he'll go, okay, it's not a heavy read. Because you look at the pages of the book and you go, it's all of 317 pages, and you go, shoo! And then you put it in your hand and you go, okay, it's not a heavy read.
Yes.
I've learned that the words in books now have weight, and that trick has never failed me.
Yeah, I hope it works
It's
for
never,
me. Yeah,
no, it's
I
never
want to
failed
learn
me.
the trick.
Well, congratulations, milady.
Thank you
And
so
we wish
much.
you the very best of luck. May you, become a bestseller and be on the bestseller list for this one. I think I'm going to enjoy sinking my teeth, and you're leaving this copy for me, hey?
Yes, okay, no problem.
Lovely. I'm going to sink my teeth into this. It is The Family Matriarch by Rudzani Kashane, and it is available on Amazon, or Book Circle Capital is where you can go to get it. It's a riveting story of Enelo Matebula and Paige Mahone, whose worlds seem quite far apart. However, fate of circumstance brings them together.
The Desert Warriors are looking for their third victory to maintain a 100% winning record. Togo are fighting for their first win after 2 draws in their opening 2 matches. This is the top of the table contest in Group E. Experience the journey to Morocco in the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Algeria versus Togo on Thursday, 10 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Shifting our focus a little bit and looking at how second-hand goods for first-class care can really just do amazing things. Thrifting can do amazing things, in fact, to afford people palliative care. So we know that the second-hand clothing sector in SA has actually grown quite attractive. Now, though, valued at nearly 10 billion rand, right? And we're talking thrift stores, we're talking charity shops, we're talking all kinds of institutions and establishments. And so we thought we'd invite Warren Oxford Huggett, who is the accreditation manager at the Association of Palliative Care Centres, and find out exactly how our supporting of these hotspots that sell pre-loved goods can help really provide essential palliative care. How are you doing this afternoon, Warren?
Good afternoon, Bridget, and thank you for this opportunity, and good afternoon to all your listeners. Lovely
Thank
to be with you.
Thank you for taking the time. There's an attractiveness that has emerged in recent years with, thrifting and going barrel hunting at your favorite neighborhood antique or secondhand store. When I was growing up, I remember I grew up in Durban. I'm a Durban girl, and
lovely.
Tafta was just in this inner city. And I remember Tafta always had a Tafta charity store, but it wasn't attractive then, whereas now it's become quite the hot thing.
Very much so. Thrifting and charity shops and, put it bluntly, recycling has really taken off. And, the APCC members, the hospices around the country, make great use of this marketing sustainability tool to help sustain the services that they run. And you walk into hospice charity shops around the country, and I mean, each one is going to be slightly different. Each one's going to have a different ambiance, and they all look really professional nowadays. And it's well worth supporting your local thrift shop, your local hospice through this endeavor. Yeah.
Inform those who might not be aware around the link with, thrift stores, charity stores, with hospices, for instance, and how they contribute not only to the local economy, but also contribute in sustaining these very needed centers of service, primarily for the elderly and those who have been marginalized and forgotten.
Fantastic. So, Bridget, we talk a lot about sustainability. We talk a lot about recycling, and recycling is part of sustainability. So many hospices who provide palliative care to patients with a life-limiting illness, and they use these tools of the thrift shop, the charity shop, to help support the care that they provide. And this is just one way that member organizations of the Association of Palliative Care Centers ensure their sustainability, and through that sustainability ensure that the care that so many people so desperately need. Last year, over 36,000 people were cared for by hospices around the country. And this is just one tool that they make use of to help sustain those vital services, as you mentioned, that people so desperately need.
And as much as on the one hand, our primary focus is, of course, the service that these shops provide for these homes and these institutions, but it's also doing another good thing because it's curbing our enthusiasm around fast fashion.
So there's nothing wrong with fashion, and I mean the fashion industry is a very important part of of the world. But thrifting and making use of second-hand or pre-loved is a better way of using it. Pre-loved goods really speaks volumes to our compassion, our support of both the environment in terms of recycling, and just in terms of the compassion industry, the industry of care that so many hospices are involved in. And I think it's so important that we don't lose sight of that. As valuable as fashion is, for most of us, when we have worn a particular item, however long, it may have a stain, it may have a hole, it's much better to give it to someone or some organization that can repurpose it, resell it, rather than to throw it into the waste. Yeah.
Absolutely. And listen, by way of home furnishings and home textiles, you find some incredible things at, these charity stores. I highly recommend it if you want a bespoke personal touch, some real gems. And even if you are digging for visual artists, because you just never know what you'll find.
You'll find absolutely amazing things. And often, the service that's provided, if you're looking for something that is so specific, a book, an item of clothing, a an appliance, a piece of crockery that you've broken or chipped at home, and you're looking for one plate or cup or saucer or whatever the case might be, you will often find these very niche items in your nearest thrift shop. So we strongly encourage you to support it. And in so doing, you're doing good, not just for the environment and recycling, but you're doing good for the community that you are part of.
Absolutely. Just in closing, Warren, we speak about the alignment to thrift stores, to non-profit hospice organizations. And how does the income that's generated there, talk to us briefly about some of the issues that these incomes go to address in these homes.
Fantastic. Thank you. These incomes are like any institution, like any facility. A hospice, a palliative care center has overheads, whether they be salaries, whether they be fuel to pay for vehicles to go and visit patients at home, whether it be masks and gloves and just to clean the place with. All of those overheads are supported and met through such endeavors like the thrift shop, the charity shop idea. Not 100%, but at least there's a strong contribution towards meeting those overheads. And by that, ensuring that the patients receive the care that they need. It just makes that much difference to the life of the patient with a life-limiting illness, their families, that a nurse, a caregiver, a social worker can get out, can go and visit them and hold their hand and do the care that is needed.
Absolutely. Warren Oxford Huggets, thank you so much for the time today. And he's the accreditation manager at the Association of Palliative Care Centers. So go out and support your nearest thrift store. It's all in good purpose rather. And shopping with purpose. We like that. It's just gone 2 o'clock. Madupi is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge. The top stories this hour: Fort Hare murder trial is to begin next year, and Mantashe pleads for investment in SA minerals. A very good afternoon. The trial of the 10 accused in the University of Fort Hare murder case has been set for the 5th of May next year. The 10 appeared briefly in the Bisho High Court in the Eastern Cape in a pre-trial conference. They're charged with the murder of the bodyguard of the former Vice-Chancellor, who was murdered in a hail of bullets outside the Vice-Chancellor's home. They are also charged with the death of the Varsity's fleet manager, who was murdered in May 2022. 4 of the 10 accused are out on bail, while 6 remain behind bars. The chairperson of the ANC's Subcommittee on International Relations, Nomvula Mokonyane, says the party is firmly focused on reviving and strengthening its relationships with other liberation movements in the SADC region. Mokonyane is leading the ANC delegation in Mozambique ahead of elections in that country tomorrow. This will be Maputo's 7th polls since the advent of a multi-party democracy in 1994. Mokonyane elaborates.
We're not only looking at economic diplomacy, but the renewal of the party, learning from how the comrades in Frelimo, the comrades in ZANU-PF, the comrades in the Sandinista movement in Nicaragua, the comrades in the Communist Party of Vietnam have actually gone through their own renewals, and us also learning from them.
Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe has invited investors to put their money into South Africa and on the continent's rich resources. He delivered the welcoming address at the Africa Oil Week underway in Cape Town. The annual gathering has, for the past 30 years, created a platform for stakeholders to discuss policy, share discoveries, and secure investment, among others. Mantashe elaborates.
Investors, we're not saying to you, come to South Africa. It's not a touring destination. Come and invest. We've got these deposits. They are there waiting for investors to come and invest, make money, and help us develop the economy and upgrade the lives of our people. In conclusion, we appeal to delegates at this conference and the investment community to continue investing in developing oil and gas to enable a prosperous energy outlook for Africa and promote sustainable development.
The 70-year-old accused of running over a 6-year-old boy, leaving him with fractures to both his legs in Lutzville, Cape Town, has been denied bail in the Vredendal Magistrates Court. Christopher Stoneman allegedly drove straight towards the boy and his mother when they were walking in the area. He was arrested on the 20th of last month. The boy was transported to hospital for emergency medical treatment. The case has been postponed to the 4th of November. The Gauteng Education says schools which were attended by the 5 children who died of suspected food poisoning in Soweto will be receiving counseling. The learners died over the weekend after consuming snacks brought from a foreign-owned shop in the area. Different agencies have called for stricter regulations for foreign-owned businesses. Department spokesperson Steve Mabon.
No, it's quite sad. Somber mood in all the schools. But like as I've indicated, at primary level, these are children. They might not be, emotionally affected that much because of the level of where they are, unlike in a secondary or a high school. But the professionals have been there since this morning, making sure that they provide necessary counseling, and we are quite comforted.
And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has described the Russian President Vladimir Putin as his closest comrade. In a message marking Putin's 72nd birthday, state media quoted him as saying strategic relations between their two countries would be raised to a new level. More from the BBC's Rupert Wingfield-Hayes.
The North Korean leader's birthday greeting to Vladimir Putin shows just how far things have moved since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Before 2022, North Korea was extremely isolated and largely dependent on China. Now Kim Jong-un is describing the Russian leader as his closest comrade. Their renewed relationship was sealed with Vladimir Putin's visit to Pyongyang back in June. Since then, Western observers have expressed growing concern Russia may start passing nuclear technology to Kim's regime.
The top story at 2 o'clock, the trial of the 10 accused in the University of Fort Hare murder case has been set for the 5th of May next year. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
After registering 4 points in their first 2 matches, the Mambas of Mars target a huge win to keep their top status in Group I. But Stangsem Negati want out of the bottom position. They believe not even the Mozambican heat will stop them from getting their first win. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the meeting between neighbors. Mozambique versus Eswatini on Friday, 11 October at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Uzobuya na maswiti
Brendan Dumbo coming through with Timbanjalo. That is our 2 o'clock palette cleanser for you at the top of the hour. Beautiful song, incredible artist. She was on the lineup as one of the headline performers at this year's Joy of Jazz. And I got to see her at the meet and greet dinner, and she was just a breath of fresh air and just a ball of life. Always wonderful to see Brenda alongside other creatives, of course, that night. Just enjoying themselves and enjoying the moment and gearing up for an incredible weekend of performances. I was saying to my team now, so we were off-sighting during the song, and we sort of touch base on the show as it moves in real time. And I was saying to my team that, the thing about doing live broadcast is the fact that you have split seconds to really just process your thinking and then try to articulate that thought out in a matter of like 0.1 of a split second, with all the different elements happening around you as well. So my English bundles are now done for the day. And I'm proper switching to vernacular for the remainder of the show. So you might need a translator, as we become multilingual, because at this point in time, asekho sona. So Sawubona Mbali Mapole joins me now, who's a registered dietitian. We're going to have a conversation around how excess sugar impacts emotional well-being. How are you doing today, Mbali?
Yeah, Bridget, how are you doing? Yes, can you hear me?
Ngiyakuzwa, but I think we might need to change the line a little bit. There's just a bit of a crispiness that's happening in the few words that I heard you speak. So my team is in the back, I think, just trying to switch that line, and then we will commence with our conversation with Umbali. And we see if they are managing there. But our lines are open on 061-410-4107. That's our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send us a WhatsApp message, you can completely continue with the conversation we had earlier on around drug trafficking, or we can chime in on other things. Or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us in. Let's take a quick pause here, and then we'll come back and see. Hopefully we would have Umbali back on a different line by then.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's another elimination week as contestants bake for a spot in the top 5. But to make it through, they must overcome their most ambitious challenge yet: designing, baking, and decorating their dream birthday cake. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
The Desert Warriors are looking for their third victory to maintain a 100% winning record. Togo are fighting for their first win after 2 draws in their opening 2 matches. This is the top of the table contest in Group E. Experience the journey to Morocco in the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Algeria versus Togo on Thursday, 10 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Okay, we are trying this again. So I think what we were trying to do is to get a visual for the live stream, but it sometimes affects our audio. And so we might have to abandon the visual in order for crisp audio for this conversation to happen. A lot happens behind the scenes, but I think Umbali is back and ready with us now. How are you doing today? Not so much? Not so much. Okay. There is, like I said, there is a lot. It's not as easy to make live radio on the days when the live radio decides to not cooperate with you. But we endeavor to continue the conversations. So as they try to hook us up with Umbali again from their end, we can perhaps go, should we go to WhatsApp? We can go to WhatsApp in the meantime.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, third time's a charm, I hope. Mbali, how are you?
Hi, Bridget. I'm good. How are you? Sorry, technology is against me today.
No, I don't even think it's you. I think, technology has been playing havoc with us for the better part of the show today. But let's get the show on the roll. It's absolutely A-OK. So we're talking around excess of sugar and the kind of impact that could potentially have on our emotional well-being. And from what I understand, there's been an increasing link that's been highlighted now between sugar consumption and mental health. Expand on that for us.
So there has been definitely that we've seen more research and more studies show that a high consumption of added sugar in our diet is sort of like linked to poor mental health. Not obviously to an extent of diagnosed mental health conditions per se, but also things like anxiety and just like, depression. And those are the things that mental health issues that we see are linked to that high consumption of added sugar. And this has a lot to do with, for example, the fact that if you in your diet there's high added sugars, you eat obviously now, and in an hour or so, your sugar levels will start to drop after spiking for a while, and that can affect your mood as well, resulting directly to mood swings and irritability and just fatigue, whereby you have all of this high energy and all of a sudden you just don't want to do anything, you're now fatigued. But also we see it also, especially with anxiety, it's linked a lot with our happy hormones and neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which are very much important for regulating our moods and just that feeling of nervousness. And we see that if one consumes quite a high amount of added sugars, it affects just their reasoning, but also just how they take on situations. You feel like you're more nervous than normal, especially if your diet consists of high added sugars.
And when we talk about high added sugars, Mbali, what are we talking about here? It's not natural sugars per se.
Yeah. So we've got two types of sugars. We've got the intrinsic or as you say, natural sugar that comes naturally from food items. Think of fruits. Fruits have got a natural sugar called fructose. That is not added. It comes natural. So as such, the fruit has the fibers and all these other things that are part of the food matrix that will help with that absorption of the natural sugar. But then there is added sugar, which manufacturers add in their food to make the food nice or just to make the food taste nice, to balance out the salt, and those are the ones that you're talking about, the added sugar. So the World Health Organization has this recommendation. They say we must consume less than 30 milligrams a day of added sugar. But currently, for example, South Africa is sitting quite high. We are sitting at about 100 grams, which is quite a lot. Which is very much quite a lot from the recommendation of 24 to 100. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That is what we're talking about. It's the added sugar which we find from our food items.
Yeah, I mean, I just went off sugar, added sugars. Let me add added sugars a week ago without even knowing that we're having this conversation. But just for my own personal well-being and health, and I wonder, just for a visual cue. Because I found myself Googling, for instance, how many macros I'm supposed to be having a day. But just for a visual cue, when we talk 24 to 30 grams of sugar, what are we talking about by way of food? Are we talking 1 apple, 2 apples, 2 servings of fruit? What does that look like?
I think the best way to sort of imagine it is using teaspoons. A teaspoon that we use to put sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about 30 grams of added sugar a day, it's about 7 teaspoons of sugar.
Oh.
And then when we speak about 100 grams of added sugar a day, it's about 24 teaspoons of sugar.
Ooh.
And just also to put it in context, for example, a glass of Coke has about 9 teaspoons of sugar. So you see how it's not difficult to sort of go above the recommendation if your overall diet is quite high in these food items that have got added sugar. Of course, there are alternatives where it's the food that has added sugar, but maybe the manufacturer took a little bit of care and they sort of maybe use artificial sweeteners, for those who don't mind them, or they've reduced the sugar compared to the original. Then you find that nowadays there are versions where at some point that food item might have had 50 grams of sugar per 100 grams, and now they've revised or reduced the sugar. Perhaps it might have half of that. So there's that. But here we're talking about just, if you want to vision it, just think of a teaspoon that, because 1 teaspoon is about 5 grams of sugar. So think about it like that.
Yeah. And I mean, thank you for that, because it then paints a clear picture of how quickly, you can escalate your sugar intake a day. You wake up with a glass of coffee or tea. On average, people are putting 2-3 teaspoons of sugar. Then you move on to a soft drink. Then you move on to some kind of carb. By the time you get to lunchtime, you are hitting that 100 grams of sugar without even being aware that you've 100%. Hit that 100 grams. Let's talk a little bit as well. Let's explore more that link, as you say, that obviously there is that relationship between high sugar intake and the prevalence of anxiety and depressive symptoms in individuals. Let's explore that a little bit.
Yes. So what we tend to see that, especially if, there's that though, when you're saying add-ons like your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, you find that somebody is very cautious about the drinks they consume. For example, they might be consuming green tea, and they're thinking, I'm having 9 cups or 6 to 9 cups of green tea a day. It's fine. It's a healthy drink. But now the add-ons where somebody might put 3 teaspoons of sugar with each cup. So when we look into that, it's our overall diet, whether you are consuming foods that have added sugar or it's your add-ons, we need to try and have a sort of a diet that has space, obviously, for added sugar. We can't say it's completely zero. I think that one can do, but it becomes a little bit unsustainable. But how can we find that, I don't want to use the word balance, but how can we strike that, there's still a high consumption of foods that are naturally sweet, and then obviously whenever these add-ons happen or the foods that have got added sugar happen, then there is that sort of, there is room that you don't over consume. Because, for example, when you look into it, if your meal has got high added sugar, immediately after eating it, you will feel like you don't have that energy. You have like energy, but it's not sustainable energy in a sense of it's just fuel. So you then crash, and that can affect your productivity at work. So it's the actual anxiety that comes with, obviously, the consumption of added sugars in high quantities, but also just the thinking that now I'm too tired, I won't be able to finish X, Y, and Z. And then you get anxious about the fact that you're procrastinating and not finishing your work. And I think it's all of those things that at the end of the day affect one's mental health. That I'm not productive, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling lethargic, I'm feeling fatigued, I am crashing, I feel like I just want to go crawl back to bed. That's what we're looking at. Is as much as there is a biological connection, but also there is this indirect mental health issues that arise because you are not being able to perform at your optimum.
If Is there also maybe a connection with the cognitive function and the focus with our consumption of sugars?
100%. I'm going to give you an example. I think when we were students, we'll take this. There was a drink that was a high sugar drink, but also a high caffeinated drink that one will take. So it gives you that focus. You feel like, yes, I'm on top of my game, but it doesn't last. That is the effect that it will have on your cognitive function and your focus. Whereby, if you could take in information and be able to consume that information in 4 hours, now you've drank with the added sugars, your high intake of added sugars, 2 hours is a lot. You feel like I can't because your cognitive function and your focus is not as optimal. So that's what we're talking about. There's a lot of research that also is going on in terms of looking actually to the brain function itself further to say how does then the high consumption of added sugars affect our, whether it's causing chronic diseases that are relating to mental health in the future. But for now, we know that it definitely affects, the high consumption of added sugars affects one's focus and cognitive function, just that level of alertness and quickness into thinking as well.
Yeah. So what do we, as a parting shot, what do we need to be aware of, or how do we move? You don't like the word balance, but I know you also advocate for the fact that it's difficult for people to eradicate certain behaviors. So what advice would you give?
The first thing is what we have control on. I spoke about add-ons, how much sugar we put in our drinks. So if you've now made a decision to choose a healthier drink, whether it's tea, as I said, I made an example with green tea or coffees, but control or be mindful of how much sugar then you add in that food, in that drink. But also reading labels. It's very, very important for us to start reading labels and know. I normally say just a rule of thumb is you're looking for a food item that will have less than 5 grams of added sugar per 100 gram or per 100 ml. We can go, we can have a wiggle room up to 10 to 15 grams, but look for anything that is at least a teaspoon of added sugar per 100 gram, nothing more than that. Then by doing that, we start to control the pantry and control or even our fridges and control the types of food that we have that have added sugar. Sometimes if you want, you can look per serving, but looking at food items per 100 gram and have that from 5 to 15 grams sort of added sugar wiggle and see anything above 15 grams, then you say, okay, I won't buy. And also just maybe baking and cooking more from home. We've seen this. We were able to do this during COVID. And I think it's something that we can still embrace because by baking a lot at home, not buying, but also cooking a lot at home, we're able to control the amount of sugar that we add in our food because we are sort of using the whole foods. We are using whole grains. We are using food items that don't have much added sugar. Yeah. And I think, as I said, it's just about being mindful that already, as the World Health Organization says, we are way above where we should be in terms of the recommendation.
Absolutely.
So just be more mindful on that.
We have to wrap it there, but Mbali Mapoli, always a pleasure. She's a registered dietitian. It's gone 1:30. Medupi Makhalemele standing by.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridget Masinga, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, the Eastern Cape Transport Department says the delays in the King Paulo Airport in East London are due to a navigation system being upgraded. The trial of the 10 accused in the University of Fort Hare murder case has been set for the 5th of May next year, and Israel says it has killed another senior member of Hezbollah in an airstrike in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Those are your headlines. A full news update at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Okay, perhaps I need to qualify because my producer just asked me, am I off sugar? Yes, I'm off added sugar. So the only sugar that I'm really consuming is the honey in my oats, and that's quite limited. I've been trying to wean myself off honey for a very long time. But no added sugar, no overly processed foods, and no red meat. It's been 9 days now, and I'm okay. So Yeah. Right now, though, we are catching up with Dr. Yvonne Prince, who holds a PhD in biomedical science, microbiology from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And we're looking at how smoking affects overall health and overall well-being. And smoking remains a leading cause of preventable deaths worldwide, with an estimated 8 million lives lost annually due to tobacco-related complications. How are you doing this afternoon, Dr. Yvonne? You good?
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us and giving CPUT, the biomedical science, the platform to be speaking about our important research that we've done here at CPUT.
No, it's only a pleasure. We appreciate the time. Let's talk about, 8 million lives lost annually due to tobacco-related complications. And even given all of the information that we know, given all of the awareness campaigns that we know around smoking, all the legislation around smoking, I think almost worldwide, there's still billions of people every day who continue to just enjoy the use of tobacco.
That is correct. And all the education, there's bans we put on smoking, and we are still, especially in this low-income country, we're still making use of tobacco smoking, and now we actually went over to vaping, which is actually the same as smoking.
Yeah. What is the attraction? Because the reading does say that, predominantly in low to middle income countries, as you've just alluded. What are the prevailing circumstances within these countries that still makes smoking the thing?
I think it's mainly because of, especially in the young population, it's peer pressure. It's something new that we want to try, and it comes from habit with what we see, what our parents does.
Yeah,
and since there is a ban on smoking and there is educational programs, but a youngster under 18 can still go and buy a cigarette without the parents' consent.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the high risk. As you've said, you guys have indulged quite a bit of research around the theme of smoking. So perhaps let's also talk quite a bit about the health risks of smoking and the specific mechanisms that do the harmful, the specific harmfulness, rather, I should say, of the chemicals that are contained within tobacco. I'm not even familiar because I've never been attracted.
Yeah, unfortunately, those are the things that our population is not aware of. We're not aware that smoking actually contains chemicals such as nicotine, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, ammonia, and all these chemicals, because the microbiome, my study was done on the microbiome, is the study of your organisms inside your of your mouth. And when you introduce smoking, especially tobacco smoking, into your microbiome, it can cause effects on your bacteria. So it then allows the more harmful bacteria to thrive than the ones that is needed to break down the food particles to help with your nutrition. So and when these chemicals are introduced due to smoking, it actually can cause oxidative stresses on the body, which can lead to inflammation, because smoking generates these particles that we call reactive oxygen species, ROS, which cause these stress in your oral microbiome, and these then causes damage to your cells, your proteins, your DNA, which then triggers chronic inflammation, and the inflammation is a key contributor to conditions such as cardiovascular disease, which then can cause arteriosclerosis and respiratory disease. And then there's also other smoking can also cause immune system suppressants, where they weaken your immune system, which impairs the important function of your white blood cells, such as your neutrophils and macrophages, that are actually there to protect you from infections. So when you introduce these chemicals into your mouth, you are actually exposing these cells to these chemicals, and it lowers them, and then it can result in respiratory disease. What we also seen in our studies is that smoking can have an effect on your insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes. So, smoking contains various chemicals, and there is a number of chemicals that I can mention, and they all have a different effect on your oral microbiome.
Yeah, so it's not just in trying to follow the science of it. It's not just about the big hit diseases, things like lung cancer and such, but there's a whole ecosystem that's being affected internally, and it could ultimately lead to a variety of other things.
Yes, exactly, because you're now introducing, because remember the tobacco that you introduce also got organisms on them. So you're introducing new organisms into your mouth, and the normal ones then must fight for a position. And unfortunately, because of the inflammation produced, because of these chemicals, this pathogenic bacteria will thrive, resulting in oral disease. And once oral disease occurs, it then gives you a gateway to systemic disease, such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease, mentioning just a few.
Let's talk a little bit about vaping. A lot of people are taking on to vaping. It's become a whole lifestyle thing now. But is it understood to have the same health effects as traditional cigarette tobacco smoking?
It unfortunately does, yes. They both have some common effects, because what it does, vaping and smoking, it dries your mouth, which then causes a reduce in your saliva, and your saliva is needed to keep your mouth moist to prevent these pathogenic bacteria from growing. So once you have these dry mouth, your bacteria that are there that should be at a lower abundance then takes over, and then it causes the inflammation. And once you see signs like gum disease, like red inflammation, we have bleeding, you should actually take care of it and go to your health profession to help you assist getting rid of that inflammation, because if that inflammation is left uncured, you will then develop periodontitis, which is a more chronic state of your oral health. And once periodontitis occur, you will then develop these pockets, and these pockets will allow foreign bacteria to actually sit there and overgrow, and therefore you will present with more bad oral health, where you have bad breath, you have dry mouth, you have inflammation. And unfortunately, if it's not treated, this will then increase the risk of diabetes, chronic cardiovascular disease, because if there is some trauma to your oral health and these bacteria then enters your bloodstream, it can cause cardiovascular diseases and affect other parts of the body.
Just in closing, Dr. Yvonne, talk to us about what more can be done by way of promoting awareness of the link between smoking and oral health consequences, and obviously then just the general connection of your health system.
We should educate our young adults, especially. We should target our youth with educational programs, starting at school-based programs. We educate our youth on the use of tobacco, what the implications is going to be, what the health consequences is going to be, what you should look out for, especially as a gum disease, because sometimes we just see, our teeth is bleeding. It's normal. It's not normal. It's the start of a chronic infection. So you need to regularly go to the dentist for for checkups. You can also have, we can also do more public campaigns where we help, where we highlight these oral health. We can use celebrities. I see now TikTok is a trend where we can actually promote oral health and what the effects of vaping and smoking, because vaping actually has got these different flavors, and these different flavors contains of lots of sugars, and these sugars then causes the organisms to form biofilms, so they pack on your mouth, and these will then regulate, can then interfere with your glucose intake, and also your diet. We should also make our youngsters aware of a good diet, because the diet can also influence your oral health, which also can result in systemic disease.
Fabulous.
There is various other ways, but community-based projects is also one of them.
Doc, we have to leave it there for this afternoon, but we thank you so much for your insights. That was Dr. Yvonne Prince, who is with the Biomedical Science Microbiology at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Let's take a quick pause here, and then we come back, we get into Kids Corner.
The Leopards and Taifa Stars have a big battle in the top of the table clash. DRC is only interested in 3 points to maintain their winning rhythm, while the East Africans also want victory to sustain their unbeaten run in Group H. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco, DR Congo versus Tanzania on Thursday, 10 October at 6 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's another elimination week as contestants bake for a spot in the top 5. But to make it through, they must overcome their most ambitious challenge yet: designing, baking, and decorating their dream birthday cake. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi, my name is Danica Wood. When I have homework, I usually ask my friends to help me out because sometimes they know things that I don't. I prefer to be helped rather than to have the person do the homework for me. I prefer getting help from teachers because teachers always know the work better than anyone else. If I could choose anyone to help me with my homework, I would most probably choose the subjects teacher, because maybe the teacher can maybe revise the topic again for me and I can get a better understanding of the work. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Yolanda Mzobe. When I have a homework, my father helps me. I feel comfortable when he's helping me because he explains nicely, asks me if I understand. If I don't understand, he explains much better until I understand. And he makes sure that I pass and do well. I prefer getting help from a family member or a teacher because a friend might help you, but you get wrong things. Your friend is not a good person to help you. What if your friend also doesn't know, but he or she will lie to you and say wrong things, and at the end you will not pass your exams and your classworks. I like it when my family member or teacher helps me to do my homework because they are good in everything. They know almost everything and they understand everything I ask for. Thank you, everyone.
My name is Dureta Nglu and I go to Macaulay House School. Since something, I haven't really needed help with my homework, but when I do need help, I ask both my parents and my siblings, and I do feel very comfortable going to them. I also ask my cousins for help whenever I visit them. I prefer being helped because I like to get to understand the homework that I have been given. I really don't mind who helps me. All I care about is getting the right answer in the end. I would choose my family to help me with homework because almost everyone has been past grade 12, which makes them super intelligent.
Hi, my name is Asanda Chabalala and I'm 12 years old from Ekoli. I don't ask anyone to help me with my homework. If I were to ask someone for help, I would prefer being helped rather than the person do the homework for me. I would rather get help from a family member. I like that choice because I know my family members more than anyone. I would choose my dad to help me because he explains anything I ask him perfectly.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Kabamba. When I have homework to do and I need help, I usually ask one of my friends or classmates that I know are possibly good at what I need help with. I feel comfortable asking for help from them because they are very understanding and helpful whenever I need the help. I honestly prefer being helped rather than getting someone to do the work for me because it wouldn't help me learn in any way. I prefer getting help from a friend. I say this because they make it feel easier to understand the work that I need assistance with in a way I understand. If I could choose anyone to help me with my homework, I would still choose one of my close friends, mainly because my friends make it very easy for me to understand some work.
Hello, my name is Dembele Madem, 10 years old, I'm in grade 5. I am mostly comfortable with my mom to help me with my schoolwork because she's mostly open to help me with my schoolwork. I would like my tutor at home to help me gain more education in order to pass my grade.
The person that I'm most comfortable with to help me with my homework or any schoolwork at home is my mom. I feel like my mom is very patient and she understands and can just help me do my homework. So what I would like my tutor at home or my mother at home to do more is that she must just be comfortable and be patient and understand more about my schoolwork so that I can feel at ease when they're teaching or helping me with my schoolwork at home. Thank you and have a lovely day.
My name is Orisesa Nemakanga. Now, I don't think I need help doing my homework. Yes, there is a time at home when nobody is able to help me. I ask Google to help me with my homework. If I don't have homework, I will take it as a free day when I get home.
Hello friends and happy Tuesday. Have you ever felt hesitant to ask for help with your homework? Today let's discuss something really important, the value of seeking assistance when you're tackling your schoolwork. Sometimes homework can be challenging or confusing, and it's perfectly normal to feel stuck. Even the brightest minds need a little help now and then, so don't hesitate to reach out when you need it. Now, let's explore why it's important to ask for help and why putting in your best effort matters. First off, asking for assistance doesn't mean you're not smart. It simply means you're in the process of learning. Think about learning to ride a bike. You wouldn't expect to master it on your first try, right? Sometimes a little guidance is all you need, and with guidance, you'll improve. Homework works the same way. When you seek help, you're giving yourself the boost you need to grasp the material better. It's also important to remember that asking for help is not the same as having someone do your homework for you. When you seek assistance, you're getting guidance or explanations that empower you to solve the problems on your own. If someone else completes your homework, you miss out on the learning experience, which is the true purpose of homework. It's all about strengthening your mind. Additionally, asking for help shows that you genuinely care about your education. It's perfectly fine to say, I don't understand this yet, because with the right support, you will. By asking thoughtful questions and working through challenges, you'll gain a clearer understanding of the material. As a result, you'll likely feel proud of your achievements. Over time, you'll find that you need less assistance as you become more skilled. So next time you face a tough homework assignment, don't hesitate to ask your teacher, parents, or friends for help. Just remember, your job is to try your best and learn. Seeking help is a sign that you're on the right track.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Bafana Bafana and the Congolese troops are all looking for their second victory in Group K. Bafana Bomzansi Africa say they will take full control at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, while the green, yellow and red want to raise their country's flag with 3 points. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco, South Africa versus Congo Brazzaville on Friday, 11 October at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are wrapping up the conversation with Dr. Stephen Holt, who is an emergency medicine entrepreneur and CEO of First Care Solutions. And they are introducing the innovative Discovery Hospital at Home model. And he's going to tell us more about this revolutionary approach. How are you doing, Dr. Stephen? You good?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
I'm great, thank you. I guess first and foremost, let's get some background on First Care Solutions and the kind of work that you guys do that plugs into the health and medical sector.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So First Care Solutions is a medical administration and technology company. We've been around for the last 15 years or so, and we have transitioned in the last sort of post-COVID years more and more into digital solutions for healthcare. We manage and operate in the emergency medicine sector, the virtual healthcare space, and medical training, administration, and pretty much anything that enhances healthcare delivery. In order to increase access to healthcare, help keep costs down, and ultimately make patient care better.
Let's talk a bit about this, what you're defining as a revolutionary approach to patient care. And from what I understand, you're delivering hospital-level services directly to patients.
Yes, that's correct. So we're not doing it on our own, and I think it's important to say that hospital at home is not internationally a new concept. It is performed in many sort of more developed countries in Europe and America. And essentially what it is a collaboration of providers, being the funder, in this case Discovery, ourselves being the administrator and technology monitoring partner. And then there's device partners, there's nursing partners, there's pharmacy partners, and then there's emergency partners as well, all underscored or controlled by the central admitting doctor. So what we're doing is taking hospital home and trying to provide, I would hesitate to say better care than in hospital, but for the appropriate cases, at least as good care with fewer side effects, better accessibility, and even better outcomes in many circumstances.
Talk to us about, the kind of care maybe that's provided at home, or the kind of circumstances that would warrant a hospital at home care.
So this is a very much an evolving process that's going on at the moment. Currently, in the Discovery Hospital at Home program, there are 8 conditions that are designated on certain plans as being a designated service provider platform for these conditions. Some of them are stable cardiac failure, cellulitis, uncomplicated pneumonia, things that generally in a hospital environment require relatively low nursing intervention. And these types of cases are admitted through a formal process that requires pre-approval from the funder into a home admission. And those home admissions are then onboarded by nurses, a monitoring device that transmits constantly through to our central monitoring center is applied to the patient, and then presuming the patient's social circumstances allows for this process to go ahead, we then monitor the patient 24 hours a day centrally in our alarm center, and we're able to keep a close eye on that patient. They then have virtual consultations or investigations done as need be. So if you need a physio or need a blood test, then those things are done from home, and the results are then reported back to the admitting or controlling doctor.
I see. And you mentioned a monitoring device that goes in tandem with the treatment. So obviously this speaks to an advancement in technologies, and let's talk about how that is shaping the future of patient care.
So the actual device that's being used in our current circumstance, it looks very much like a watch that is applied to the wrist. You can also get ones that are applied on the upper arm or on the chest, and they are devices that measure your blood pressure, your pulse, your respiratory rate, your oxygen saturation, your temperature, and those data points are submitted electronically through to the monitoring center, where a doctor constantly monitors those 24 hours a day and is able to intervene on trends or if there's deterioration at any point in time. So technology is advancing in leaps and bounds, and you add AI into that as well, and you're finding this dramatic improvement in home monitoring. Virtual healthcare is a general statement. We've just launched the Care First platform now, which is virtual healthcare direct to doctors in under 2 minutes, vital scans that measure your blood pressure, pulse, respiratory rate, just using the facial scan or video from your smart camera. It's getting better and better, and I think what it does is it allows people to take control of their health better, much more affordably and much quicker. You can intervene on things much quicker than you could before, and that's what we're trying to create.
Yeah. Stephen, unfortunately, we have to leave it there for this afternoon, but it definitely sounds like there's been some great technological interventions in the medical sector, and we're looking forward to what the future brings by way of more patient-focused solutions. That was Dr. Stephen Holt, emergency medicine entrepreneur and CEO of First Care Solutions. That's all the time we have with you for this afternoon, but we thank you so much for engaging us in our conversations today. We'll bring you more by way of themes and topics tomorrow. And we leave you now in the capable hands of John, who's still in for Ashraf. That's it from us. Inshallah, God willing, we do it again tomorrow.
Thanks, Bridget. The top stories at 3 o'clock. The ANC rubbishes claims around Gauteng Premier, and the Fort Hare murder trial is to begin next year. A very good afternoon. Ke Mudupi Makhalemele with the news. The ANC has refuted claims that its Gauteng chairperson Banyaza Lesufi was summoned to Luthuli House to answer to national officials about his negative public remarks regarding the Government of National Unity. Party SG Fikile Mbalula is briefing the media on the outcomes of the party's National Working Committee meeting.
So the report that they were summoned and called to meet the officials to face a disciplinary action together with Panyaza are unfounded. And at the same time, they are simply peddling of lies. When a member of the ANC is subjected to a disciplinary process, he is not called to the officials' meeting. The officials' meeting, when you are called for political engagement.
Eastern Cape Transport says the delays in the King Palo Airport in East London are due to a navigation system being upgraded. The department says the challenge is further exacerbated by poor visibility due to the adverse weather conditions in most parts of the province, including in East London. Spokesperson Unathi Bingosi says the department is constantly checking the progress and looking for solutions.
The delay or cancellation of flights is